Long time ago, the kings, they had a cupbearer. What did they do? Well, they would taste the wine. They would see if it was okay, and they would taste the food, see if it was all right, if it was fine, make sure there wasn't anything poisonous in it. Now, the king, he trusted this person. He had to. And this was Nehemiah's very important job, to be cupbearer to the king of Persia. It's a very important job. Now, this shows us that it's right for a believer to hold a job, such as a governmental job at a secular workplace. In the month of Nisan, in the 20th year of King Artaxerxes, when wine was before him, I took up the wine and gave it to the king. Now I had not been sad in his presence. Now Nehemiah, he understood the sovereignty of God and the covenant and what that meant. And he knew that you didn't just pray and just wait for, oh, what's God going to do? He understood that God was sovereign and that you prayed and that you also acted. And he knew this. He understood this. And he knew that this sometimes involved risks in God's kingdom. But God went ahead with things even though it involved risks. Now, we learned earlier that he had prayed a prayer in chapter 1. We learned this a couple days ago, his prayer to God. And after he'd finished praying, he went back to work as the cupbearer for the king. But when he went there and he went to work, the king noticed that he was sad. And the reason he was sad is because the people of Israel had kept on sinning, the people that were in Jerusalem. And the king wondered, why are you so sad? Nehemiah, he tended not to show how he felt in front of the king. The reason is because he was afraid that the king would notice he was afraid. But why? Well, there were strict rules that they could be punished if the king noticed that they were sad. And the king said to me, why is your face sad, seeing you are not sick? This is nothing but sadness of the heart. Then I was very much afraid. Nehemiah, he depended on the Lord to take care of the situation. He was afraid, what the king would see him sad and then, what would happen. But, he told him about, what was going on in Jerusalem, in this city, and that it made him sad. And he was surprised when the king granted his request for him to go back and go there and help in Jerusalem. He would give him a letter to show to other people in authority, proving that the king had granted him permission for him to go. And secondly, he would also give the money and provide the materials for him to use to do this. People would read this and leave him alone and not harm him. And I said to the king, if it pleases the king, let letters be given me to the governors of the province beyond the river, that they may let me pass through until I come to Judah. Well, it seemed that everything was going well for Nehemiah to make his trip, and everything was happening good. But then Nehemiah heard that there were some people who were angry. There was 2 men. One was named Sanballat, and the other man, his name was Tobiah. And they were servants who were opposing him, going back his plans to rebuild Jerusalem. But when Sanballat and Tobiah heard this, it displeased them greatly that someone had come to seek the welfare of the people of Israel. The people, they went back to Jerusalem to start building again, but the men, they hated them, and they tried to do whatever they could to stop them from building. But when Sanballat, Tobiah, and Geshem heard of it, they jeered at us and despised us and said, what is this thing you are doing? Are you rebelling against the king? What happened to Nehemiah and to the workers in Jerusalem, it didn't really surprise anyone. All servants of the church, Satan tries to go against God's children. He tries to stop them. He will often mess things up and make people angry to stop the work of the Lord. There's always a cost. There's always things that people will have a cost to pay in serving the Lord. And Jesus warned us that there would be a cost in this world. People would come against us. Why? Because we follow Jesus. Now great crowds accompanied him, and he turned and said to them, if anyone comes to me and does not hate his own father and mother, and wife and children, and brothers and sisters, yes, and even his own life, he cannot be my disciple. Whoever does not bear his own cross and come after me cannot be my disciple. It's important for us to understand that there is a cost and be willing to accept it to glorify Christ. This to our Christian life. One of the hardest things to do is the cost of suffering that we have here in the United States as we are followers of Christ, Christians. It's hard. And there are people who are non-believers, and they'll make faces at us and jeer at us and oppose us. And that's very common for them to do that. We see that all around the United States. And we face the temptation to do what? To change our message of the Lord, of the gospel. To not talk about sin and hell and judgment. They make faces, they jeer at us, they try to stop us. But we must never succumb to this temptation to change the truth. We must declare the gospel as Christians to all. Hello. Maybe some of you are thinking, well, the message of Jesus Christ, talking about sin and judgment and hell and all of these things. Well, why? Why not just talk about salvation? Leave out the negative part. Why not? Well, the Bible teaches that there is good news and there is bad news. And if we leave out the bad news, what's the point of the good news? I went to a funeral, and an old woman had died. And there was also another man there who was at the funeral that I noticed. And I was watching the preacher, and he was speaking about very positive things. And he was talking to the people about very good things. And this woman who died, she was a good woman. He was explaining that Jesus was the Lamb who would come and take care of his sheep and take them to heaven. All of these positive things. It was very nice to hear. All good things. And the music, the voice, beautiful singing, everything came together very well in this funeral. After the funeral was over, the man came to me and he said, "What did you think about this?" It was good, right? For all the people, all funerals should be like this, very positive. And I said, well, no. The Bible does not say to only talk about the good things. It also says bad things. And people need to hear this. It's clear that we are sinners and we need a Savior, Jesus Christ, who died on the cross for us to save us through our faith in Him. We need to talk about the good things and the bad.